life sciences companies operate in an increasingly complex environment, one where regulatory expectations, quality standards, and project readiness continue to evolve. That's why Verista created SME Insights and Perspectives, a video series featuring Verista subject matter experts sharing practical guidance on the issues shaping the industry today. In this episode, we're joined by Juli Hood, a Verista subject matter expert in commissioning, qualification, and validation.
I have been with Verista for 5 years. At a high level, I combine leadership, business development, and operational management for my clients. From the people side, I lead and mentor technical teams, focusing on talent development, performance, and career growth. On the delivery side, I ensure quality execution for our clients. I assist clients with managing project risks to ensure successful delivery. I have 25 years of experience in the industry. I spent the first 14 years in research and development for a medical device. I then moved into a technical operations role where I was the liaison between operations and quality, performing a lot of quality engineer and validation engineer work before moving into consulting, where I support the life sciences, including pharmaceutical, med device, nutrition, and food and beverage industries. One of the biggest challenges that we see is aggressive timelines. It always seems that things happen when they're procuring equipment, during the construction of the facilities, that seem to crunch the timeline for validation. So we're always at the end. So all of the front operations get all of the time, but the end timeline never changes. So validation is always in a compressed timeline. To go along with that, one other challenge that we have is just maintaining alignment across all of the different functions. So whether it's quality, engineering, project management team, operations, they want to move quickly because their timeline has been compressed. So they often will skip the front end work. So those user requirements developed. Or they want to change something in the project, whether it's changing a piece of equipment or a layout. All of that eats up that time and causes delays for validation. So one of the biggest things that we can do is communicate. So we can do our best to push the client to understand the importance of the upfront work. There's usually such a focus on construction activities or getting the equipment ordered because it's a 52-week lead time. But what they are missing is they're ordering this equipment or designing the facilities without putting in the work for validation upfront. So that includes our design documentation, our user requirements, our system impact assessments, our risk assessments. So we can continue to push from our end, and we often help develop them for the clients. So we use the engineers specifically or operations as our technical guidance, but we don't need them to hold our hands. We can develop those documents so that we're doing all that upfront work, and it just makes it easier on the back end that we're not trying to write requirements for something that they've already purchased, because that usually causes a lot of problems. In the larger projects, the focus is always on getting equipment ordered, getting the facility design set. And they often miss developing the user requirements for the equipment, the user requirements for the facility, understanding what the critical quality attributes are, understanding the risk assessments, understanding what the qualification plan looks like. We can do all of that in the planning stages so that we have it completely laid out for the client. Because as I said earlier, the validation timeline is always compressed. We're at the end, we're often forgotten. So if we can do all of this planning up front and know exactly what type of testing we're going to do, it just saves a lot of confusion on the back end. If we can align all of the functional departments into what the plan is, what the requirements are, it just makes it flow easier, and there's no questions when the end of the project, it's usually a little bit chaotic. But if we have a plan already defined, already approved, it's one less thing that we have to worry about. One of the biggest signs is frequent scope changes. So when a client can't decide exactly what they want to do, or they pick something and then a few weeks later they said, oh, we're going to change our mind, we're going to do it this way, or we're changing the layout a certain way. So if you don't have those clear project requirements, the project plans, changing what needs to be done, critical decisions are then delayed. So we can't create our user requirements if we don't have a final plan in place. We can't make the decisions as to those critical aspects of the equipment if they keep changing what type of a piece of equipment that they need for that role. We can't do our risk assessments. So all of that front work we do to help save time on the back end is just delayed. And we see a lot of issues, red flags, when we constantly are changing scope, because this means that further down when we get into testing, there are probably going to be additional changes, potential issues during execution that can just delay the project even further. Most common gaps are the handoffs between the phases. So whether it's that design phase where we're designing our requirements, the commissioning phase, which your FAT, which is at the vendor, or then after the qualification phase when we're closing things out. We see those gaps where the work done may not trace back. So our testing, maybe it doesn't trace back to our user requirements. If we don't do a good job up front, these may be missed in the handoff from design qualification to our FAT or SAT. Another big gap would be not leveraging your FAT and SAT where possible. That creates duplicate work. There's no need to repeat tests that have already been done and been successful. Another gap that we often see is tracing our risks to our qualification protocols. So we do risk assessments throughout the life cycle of the project, but a lot of times the teams don't go back to actually look at those risks and figure out where can we actually test that in our protocol to make sure that whatever mitigation activities we have in place are actually being covered. So that by the time then we get to our performance qualification, which is our PQ, if we don't do that testing that we found in the risk assessments, we can have unexpected surprises. We can have unexpected failures, performance issues, and all of that delays the operational readiness for the project. From my experience, what they value most is that we become an extension of their team. So we are there to not only support them, but we challenge them. We make sure that they are following the most up-to-date regulations and standards, that we work with them and with their team to support them the best way possible. Again, we're an extension of their team, and that's the feedback that I get most often from the clients.